Blackwood, a sleepy town cloaked in endless fog and dense, whispering woods, had a secret, an abandoned Victorian house that no one dared to claim. Yet, Jack Harper, a struggling true crime author, moved in with his wife Emily, their 14-year-old rebellious daughter Sarah, and curious 8-year-old son Max. Jack, desperate for inspiration for his next book, believed the house's dark reputation could be his muse. Locals murmured tales of inexplicable tragedies. Families who lived there had vanished or met horrifying fates, leaving the house cold, lifeless, and tainted. But Jack brushed off their warnings, calling them small-town ghost stories. That confidence faded as the family unpacked and the house seemed to breathe around them, its ancient walls creaking like distant whispers. As they settled in, Max ventured into the attic, a place thick with cobwebs and shadows. He stumbled upon a decrepit wooden box, its lock rusted shut. Inside were old 8mm film reels and an antique projector, almost humming with an eerie energy. Excited, he called for Jack, who saw the discovery as a potential goldmine. The reels bore handwritten titles in faded ink: family picnic, backyard fun, camping under stars, harmless, perhaps even nostalgic, Jack thought. That evening, he set up the projector in his dimly lit office, eager to explore the contents. The films began innocently, families laughing, children playing, mothers smiling. But as each reel progressed, the tone shifted grotesquely. A picnic turned into a scene of horror as gas from a faulty grill engulfed a family in flames. A backyard barbecue ended with a figure swinging lifelessly from a tree. A camping trip dissolved into screams as the family was buried alive beneath the dirt they once pitched their tent on. Jack's skin prickled as he noticed a recurring detail. In each scene, a shadowy figure lingered at the edges of the frame. No face, no features, just a silhouette, watching silently. Jack convinced himself it was a prank, a dark joke someone left behind. But deep down, he felt the chill of something much worse. That night, the Harper family's nightmares began. Sarah woke screaming, her face pale with terror. She swore she saw someone standing at the foot of her bed, tall, shadowed, unmoving. Emily brushed it off as a bad dream. But when Max started talking to Mr. Silas, a man no one else could see, the air in the house grew colder, heavier. "Who's Mr. Silas?" Emily asked Max, masking her unease. "He says he used to live here," Max replied with an innocent smile, "and he wants us to stay forever." As the days passed, Jack became obsessed with the films. Each reel was hauntingly meticulous, as though crafted by someone with a cruel, artistic intent. The more he watched, the clearer the horrifying truth became. Every family in the footage had lived in this house before meeting their gruesome end. And now, his family was next. Emily, her nerves fraying, begged Jack to abandon his research and leave the house. But Jack refused, his obsession deepening with each reel. He became consumed by the need to understand the entity lurking within the films. Meanwhile, Sarah's behavior began to shift. Her once vibrant sketches turned dark and nightmarish. She drew the shadowy figure from the reels again and again, its swirling, faceless head looming over their family. Each new drawing felt more sinister than the last, as though Sarah were capturing glimpses of something watching them from the shadows. Max, too, was changing. His laughter echoed through the house at odd hours, though no one could see what amused him. He whispered to someone unseen, his innocent voice chilling in the stillness of the night. One day, Jack noticed Max scribbling on the walls of his room. The symbol he drew was the same one etched into the old projector, an ancient sigil tied to a demon named Malik, the Devourer of Innocence. Jack's unease turned to dread as he uncovered a horrifying pattern in his research. Every family in the reels had one thing in common: a child disappeared after the murders. The missing children were never found, their fates unknown. But the truth became clear: Malick didn't just kill, he consumed. He fed on children's souls, using their innocence as a vessel to spread his influence. One cold, moonless night, Emily woke to find Max's bed empty. Panic seized her as she searched the house, calling his name. Jack joined her, their frantic footsteps echoing in the silence. Then, from the basement, they heard the faint hum of the projector. Rushing downstairs, they found Max standing in front of the screen, his face blank and eyes glazed. The projector had come to life on its own, playing a reel Jack hadn't seen before. The label on the film sent icy tendrils of fear through Jack's chest. It was titled The Harper Family. The final reel began to play, and Jack and Emily watched in growing horror. The grainy footage showed their family's gruesome demise. Jack strangled in his office, his lifeless body slumped over the typewriter. Emily submerged in the bathtub, her eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Sarah consumed by flames, her screams cutting through the darkness. And Max, small, innocent Max, walking hand in hand with the shadowy figure into the black void. The realization struck with crushing clarity: Malick wasn't just watching. He was scripting their fate, piece by piece, ensuring they would follow the same tragic path as the families before them. Desperation gripped Jack. He grabbed the projector, slamming it against the floor with all his strength, but it didn't even crack. Emily, trembling with fear, begged him to stop. "We have to leave, Jack. Now." But when they rushed to the car, the engine sputtered and died. The forest around the house seemed to grow darker, the trees bending inward as if sealing their fate. As night enveloped the house, it came alive with terrifying intent. Whispers slithered through the walls, lights flickered violently, and shadowy figures flitted in and out of view. Sarah's voice echoed down the hall as she screamed, "He's calling me." Drawn by Malick's chilling whispers, she stumbled into the attic. There, hanging from the rafters, was an old noose swaying gently, as though it had been waiting for her. Meanwhile, Max's innocent demeanor evaporated. Under Malick's control, he locked Jack, Emily, and Sarah in separate rooms, his once bright eyes now dark and hollow. "Mr. Silas says you can't leave," Max said softly through the door, his voice devoid of warmth. Jack, desperate to save his family, pieced together the truth: Malick's power came from the films. If he could destroy them, perhaps they could escape. Gathering every reel, he set them ablaze. But as the flames licked the reels, the fire spread unnaturally fast, consuming the room and then the house itself. The walls groaned and cracked, Malick's deep, guttural laughter echoing all around them. Jack shouted to Emily, "Get the kids out. Now." Emily fought through the choking smoke, dragging a hysterical Sarah with her. They stumbled outside, gasping for air, but Jack remained behind. Inside the inferno, Jack faced Malick's presence, an overwhelming force of darkness that seemed to envelop him. He grabbed the projector one last time, smashing it into the flames. The sound of shattering glass pierced the air, followed by a blood-curdling scream. The house collapsed into itself, and Jack's screams were swallowed by the fire. Emily, Sarah, and Max stood outside, watching the house burn to the ground. Tears streamed down Emily's face as she held her children tightly. The fire roared, then abruptly extinguished, leaving behind an eerie silence. For a moment, it seemed they were safe. But as Emily knelt to comfort Max, he turned to her with an unsettling smile. His voice was low and cold as he whispered, "Mr. Silas says it's not over." Weeks after the fire, Emily moved the family to a quiet town, far from Blackwood and its haunted memories. The new house was smaller but filled with sunlight, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness they had escaped. Emily clung to the hope that this fresh start would save her family from the lingering shadows of Malick. Max seemed to improve at first. He laughed again, played with Sarah, and even began drawing bright, cheerful pictures. Emily allowed herself a fragile sense of relief. Perhaps the nightmare was over. One night, while tucking Max into bed, Emily kissed his forehead and whispered, "You're safe now, sweetheart." He looked at her with sleepy eyes and murmured, "I know, Mommy. Mr. Silas says he can't come here." Her heart stopped. The name she thought she'd never hear again hung in the air like a dagger poised to strike. She forced a smile, brushing his hair back. "You're just tired, Max. Go to sleep." But the unease lingered. That night, Emily sat in the living room, clutching a glass of wine, staring at the empty fireplace. The shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, but she dismissed it as exhaustion. Until she heard a faint, rhythmic clicking sound from upstairs. Her blood ran cold. She crept up the stairs, her heart pounding. The sound grew louder as she approached Max's room. She pushed the door open and froze. The dusty box sat on Max's desk, though she had destroyed it with her own hands. The familiar projector whirred to life, casting flickering light on the wall. Emily's trembling fingers reached for the power cord, but before she could pull it, the reel began to play. It was a new reel. It showed their new house, their new life. It showed Max and Sarah playing in the yard, Emily cooking in the kitchen. But the figure was there, too, standing in the background, his faceless head tilted as though observing them with amusement. Then the image shifted. The screen showed Emily sitting in the living room, staring at the fireplace, exactly as she had done moments ago. Behind her, a shadow crept closer, reaching out. She spun around in terror, but the room was empty. The reel abruptly stopped, leaving the projector humming in the dark. Emily backed away, her legs trembling, only to bump into something. She turned slowly to see Jack standing there, his face pale and eyes wide. But Jack was dead. "Emily," he whispered, his voice distorted, "you have to go. Take the kids and run. He's here." Emily stumbled back, tears streaming down her face. "You're lying. You're not real." Jack stepped closer, his expression twisted with desperation and fear. "You don't understand. It's not over. It's never over." Before Emily could respond, the light bulb above them shattered, plunging the room into darkness. When she turned back, Jack was gone, and Max stood in his place, holding a reel labeled, "Forever Home." He smiled at her, his voice soft yet chilling. "Mr. Silas says it's okay. We're his family now." The next morning, the house was empty, the family gone. The neighbors would later say they saw nothing, heard nothing. But when the new owners moved in, they found a dusty box in the attic. Inside, a reel labeled "The Harper Family." Enjoyed the chills and thrills of this story? If you loved the journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more spine-tingling tales. We'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, theories, and even your critiques in the comments below. Your feedback helps us improve and create even better stories for you in the future. Let's grow this community of horror lovers together. Thank you for being part of our journey.